Okay.
All right, guys. Welcome back to the show. The show about the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
We're back. We're back.
Uh yeah, Mr. Burrito Man is kind of looking like Tim Pool.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset about that. That is very upsetting. He wears like a beanie every time he does a show, right?
He does I'm sure he wears it all the time. His whole life he wears one.
That's what people say. They say that when he takes off the beanie, there's like I don't know, there's like a creature inside or something like that. Or he's just bald or something, like I
Yeah,
don't know. Either that, but
I don't know what it is, but um yeah, and I think he wears dark shirts and stuff too, and headphones. So
damn, you're right. You're right. I did hit it right. I have like a Tim Pool cosplay kind of going on here right now. I do.
yeah, and all you have to do is switch your major to political science, and then you're just there you are.
Is he a political science major? Guy? Like
I mean, he's just a political commentator, I
uh
guess you would call him.
I don't think I'd want to be like Tim Pool.
No, why
No.
not?
I don't know. I feel like he's got the whole thing where I swear there's something weird going on under that beanie. I don't trust it.
So
There's
it's just
something
the
weird
way
going on.
it's just the way he looks.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's something underneath that beanie. It's always the same beanie, black beanie. I just don't trust it. I think it's kind of weird.
You
Like,
don't you don't trust someone that wears the same thing every day?
well, there's that, but also the fact that like no one can get him to take it off. At least I've never seen anybody try to say like, "Hey, what's going on underneath there?" Because you can't wear a beanie every single day. You know what I mean? Like like if I was to wear a beanie every single time we recorded this, after a while, it would just be like, enough's enough. Something's going on underneath there.
So the reason you don't trust him is the way he visually looks.
I'd say that. I'd say that. More seriously speaking, I must say, like, I don't agree with all of his takes on some political things, but I do enjoy the beanie jokes, the beanie memes of like, he takes off the head and there's like, I don't know, like something sitting underneath there, like some weird thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of if you don't like someone, it's pretty easy to resort to just making fun of the way they look so people don't like them, you know? Or just calling them a weird name. Like
Oh, do people call?
they don't call him a weird name, but they call Ben Shabibo. You ever heard that?
I call him that too. I must admit, I do call him that.
See, like that's so cheap though, and it works, but it's like, okay, like this is kind of devolving from an adult conversation to just name calling.
Well, I definitely like I can name exact reasons, like more so like Ben Shapiro is somebody who I would dislike much more than Tim Pool. Ben Ben Shabibo, as I do like to call him. But I think like there's part of it is that like it's just like fun, fun and games, because like, I think like he's a very like, he'd even say this, but a very conservative guy. He's a very like he believes that everyone should live life according to his, like, his handbook. Um so I don't know. I disagree with that, like that way of going about living, like looking at other people and being like, "Hey, you guys should do the same exact thing that I'm supposed to do." Um so in that way, I kind of I dislike him for some of those takes. Plus he's paid by, A lot of big oil companies lobby him to say some of the things that he says. So I definitely dislike him quite a bit. But I think it's more fun to make a joke out of it. Like sometimes when it gets like too serious and you're talking and you're like, oh, this guy sucks because he does these things. But then if you just make a like joke out of it and be like, oh, it's just Shabibo doing a Shabibo thing, you know, he goes out and bench barrel show. I must tell you, just buy a new house if your house gets flooded. Just sell it to somebody else. What are you doing? Like it's more fun, like than you know, in some ways. I
More
don't know.
fun, but I mean, so maybe it's more, but then whoever you're telling it to just doesn't have an ability to make an opinion on that person aside from just what you told them, which is doing uh an antagonistic impression or just making up a story about them that's weird. Like for instance, the Tim Pool taking the hat off thing.
Yeah, that I mean that is pretty ridiculous. That's a ridiculous thing. A pretty ridiculous theory, you know, if you think about it. But could you imagine if he did like take off the hat and there was like I think it's also there's an animation that makes it's called like Amen Animations or something like that. And it's just nightmare fuel. It's it's got like it's got Ben Shapiro in it too, or Ben Shabibo. It's got Tim Pool. He takes off the hat. Like he makes these just they're nightmare animations. They're pretty bad. Well, no, they're good. They're frightening, is what I mean to say. They're bad in a way where you're like, oh my god, like it's just yeah, nightmare fuel. But I think it's funny because like the people like in those how do I describe it? It's like I guess some people like could just jump on the bandwagon of hating some of the people. Like I think it's like grifters in general. I think really suck. Like I hate the ones who like, you know, they'll make um they'll make their political views designed around a profit structure for money. So they'll be like, oh, this alt-right kind of like conservatism is working really well. We need to find a way to like, you know, get in there and start and sometimes just making takes that are like, you know, completely maybe not even aligned with their own views, but they have to make them. You know, the most extreme example of that would be like Alex Jones, but he's at least funny and entertaining, even though some people believe it. But I think it's like it's a coping mechanism, knowing that like some people are believing that like he like Alex Jones said he was gonna eat his neighbor. And some people like take him seriously, you know what I mean? He said he was gonna go eat his neighbor in an apocalypse. So it's like some people take him so seriously and are that insane, but at least like it's something to laugh at, you know what I mean? And then you have like the lesser versions as it goes, you know, into something that's just not quite that intense, you know?
Yeah, well, there's the individual person being funny like Alex Jones, but then I'm just talking about when you're talking about somebody of influence or just something. And if you tell a story about Tim Pool's hat and all the crazy stuff underneath it, some in this example, somebody else made a visualization of that, and now you being how people view this individual. You're just warping this as opposed to just sharing like, you know, objective information about them.
I'd hope that some people are like are more like won't base their opinion over like a joke about somebody, you know, like I'd hope that like most people like out there will go out, do their research. I think they'll find that like, you know, some people might align with Tim Pool more. I don't think he's like the worst. He's not like one of the worst characters out there as far as like political commentators. I don't necessarily like him a lot. I think like, you know, I would lean more towards I don't watch his show because I you know, I've seen his takes, and it's not something that I personally find myself aligned with, but I'd say that, like, as far as, like, Ben Shapiro, Ben Shabibo, or, like, any of those clowns, I'd say go watch them, find out for yourself. But I mean, don't just take it from me because I called him, like, little Shabibo, and do a little I can't believe this. I can't believe this country is going down. Like, don't take that voice and think like, oh no, he's bad. Like go and do your own research. But I don't get like brainwashed by him either. Don't like start like thinking that, like, we need to take away people's rights and, like, start codifying things into law that only a certain group of people likes. Like, don't get that involved into the Ben Shapiro show, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, but sometimes you're the introduction of somebody to somebody else. And just know that you're doing that, and then you're participating in the, I guess, the back and forth of this. And you're potentially creating division if there is somebody that is uh a Ben Shapiro fan, or somebody who's kind of on the fence, but then they actually, you make a bad impression and they actually like him more because of what you did, because your opinion that he's this little mouse kind of guy, with the
He
weird
is.
voice. Yeah, but with your impression making it a joke, they might just not like that people make fun of other people. And then now all of a sudden you're pushing someone towards liking Ben Shapiro, So just know that might be happening.
Okay, well, I don't know what's happening to me. I swear
that was
it's him. It's
that was
talking about Ben Shapiro too much. It like it's a plague. Anyways, just know that, like, jokes are jokes. I think that people with like a big following, I think, like, I have a different philosophy about, big people who are like really well known, or like celebrities or minor celebrities, or just people with a large following versus people who are just, regular people. When it comes to people with like a large following, and they're given like political takes, or like, they're influencing people, I reserve more of a right to make fun of them. I wouldn't, like, do you know what I mean? I don't I think it's different when somebody has like a following like that and makes like millions of dollars. To me, it's like, well, you know, I think it's like it's completely open season. I would say the same thing for myself. If I ever, like, gained a following of some kind and was doing well for myself, I would say, like, yeah, at that point, target's painted. And then you start saying political takes. It's like, at that point, I would say it's open season, especially Ben Shabibo. I just,
so is
that
it
guy.
about the political influence or the amount of money, or when is it okay to start making fun of people?
I'd say perhaps like a mix of everything. I would say, like, there's like some individuals who gain a large amount of influence over other people. And sometimes it's a good tactic to make people, like, understand, like, maybe what this person's saying is, is harmful in many ways, and sometimes just, some people have to be called out, for like, to go back to, like, I guess, modern events, like, what's going on with, like, it's crazy what happened with Kanye. I never could have thought in a while that, like, he's hanging out with a Nazi now. Like,
Now with a Nazi?
yeah, well, a guy who has a show, and he likes to call himself, he has some really bad takes. Again, if you want to, you can go and watch, like, to anyone out there, go and do your research. But that guy really is like, it's like, if anyone out there thought Alex Jones was bad, this guy just straight up thinks that I don't even want to say I don't even want to say it. It's actually quite disturbing. Like he I mean, and then Kanye said that Hitler was good. It sounds like it's such a mess. Like I like really like bad people to be hanging out with. Even like people who are conservatives have turned his back on him. When he said that, it was on the Alex Jones show too. Of course it was. You know, that's like the furthest that you can go. And then he just managed to eclipse past that too. But I I think that like there's a certain point when like things have to be like definitely called out in some way and be like, no, this is actually like Nazi talking points. I think you've fallen down a rabbit hole, my friend, that has led down to the far right ideology of like, you know, some really hateful stuff. Like I don't know. When people have that much influence, it can be dangerous because again, some people can just go along for the ride just because the person that they like decided to go along for the same ride. Um, and I think in that way, it's like, you know, criticize them, of course, like in a way that's actually directly towards what they're stating. But every now and then there's going to be some people who, you know, who make some jokes, you know, and I think at that point it's like, well,
Okay.
yeah, and it's like no one's gonna even like they're not even gonna see it. They're like in such like a, you know what I mean? That they're on a completely different I don't know.
Yeah, but
It's
you're
kind
influencing me and whoever watches this. All I'm saying is like, is it like 10,000 followers or 100,000, or you're allowed to make someone if they have $1 million or $5 million? Like, what's the
actually
difference?
that's I hate that example too. That's also a bad example, but I hate to say that like, you know, we should live in a world where someone couldn't make, you know, a little Shabibo joke about Ben Shapiro. Because that guy just he sucks. He sucks so bad. Like, you know, like I don't even know what else to say. He sucks so bad. And like he just it's just the worst, you know? Like I don't even know how I don't even know what how to describe or like even justify it. It's just like that guy sucks so much, you know, like he and then like, you know, to know that he like he plays the grift and he know he like just the fact that he like if you made a joke about like, you know, a stupid take that he might even think in his head, he might even be like, yeah, that was kind of a stupid take, but he won't say it out loud. He has to be like, you know, pretend like oh the logic, the marketplace of free ideas. That's another like the classic, like, you know, pretending like he's like the guy who's like, you know, doing the logical thing where he's like getting in there and he's like, oh, facts and logic.
Yeah, well, he's got an incredibly high IQ, and uh, I think that making the bench people jokes are okay if you're also like balancing it out with, you know, at least give example of something he did that you didn't like, as opposed to only just say that he make a funny voice and, you know.
Okay. I can list a few things. Again, I think he's very like classic, like I don't even know how he does this because like he has very like evangelical, like Christian kind of like politics about the way that he goes about things, where he kind of thinks he wants other people to live how he wants them to live, which is fascinating because he's a Jewish guy. But it'll go to
Yeah,
takes like, you know, even that go extend beyond what even the Jewish religion believes, because in Judaism you can actually have abortions. They actually allow that, but for some reason he's anti-abortion. But it's because and again, I can't prove like the theory that he's a grifter, but I think he advocates that everyone should live under the kind of classic, like, you know, evangelical Christian way of thinking, is because he knows that the Republican Party has, like, you know, a large like fraction of evangelicals in it, and he's trying to target them in a way, even if maybe he doesn't believe it himself, which he could very well believe it. but it's a very strange thing coming from somebody who considers himself to be an Orthodox Jew, because Orthodox Jewish people oftentimes can have abortions. And I know for a fact his takes, he's definitely not an idiot. I'll say this much. He's definitely not an idiot, but when he says that somebody should just sell their house to somebody that got flooded, washed away in a flood, it's like, what are you doing, man? Like, what? Who are you gonna sell this house to? Like, I think there's like moments where he knows he's like, and he is paid by the oil lobby, so that does make sense. That like he would give a take like that. He's probably writing down stupid stuff all the time to try and defend that position, which he doesn't really know how to. And so he threw out a random example of like, just sell your house. But the fact that like the grift is so like, he grifts so hard sometimes. And some of his takes are just very like, you have to live the way that I do. And that is something that I absolutely oppose. So for that, it's I don't agree with him on probably much of anything, other than when he said that he said some things about like it's like basic things. That's the most infuriating thing, is it's like basic like common sense things where he's like, oh, it's bad that Kanye said these anti-Semitic things. Like, it's like, okay, that's like a starter point that like, but it's like, it's points that like just everyone has already been saying that like, where it's like, it's the simple points where it's like, oh yes, I must agree with this one. But then whenever it's like something else, he turns it around too later in the show. So he does the classic thing where like, he says like, oh, but Kanye, but it's not his conservatism that makes Kanye anti-Semitic. Remember this, there's some, and then he immediately changes the conversation and pivots to the left, people on the left side, and is like, they don't like Israel, so they must be anti-Semitic. And then it's like I don't know. That's just what I think about Ben Shapiro. Those are a few reasons. There's a long list. I could go on a long list of reasons why I don't like that guy, but that's a
Yeah.
few.
Okay.
That's a few.
So my recommendation would be to spend less time on the total number of points that you cover. I don't know if you can see me or not. Are you
I
there?
kind of can. You're slowing down a little bit. You're breaking up there a little bit.
Okay, it's probably better now, right?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay, my recommendation would be to thoroughly flush out a single point as opposed to do a summary of several points, because if you like, I don't fully understand any of the points that you shared. I know that are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
I don't know if that's me or you, but yeah, so like all the stuff about the house, like I don't understand all of that. I don't know what you're talking about.
He did
Sell
like a
your house.
conference. Like, I did speed run it a little bit just to it, like, there's a whole package of reasons why, like,
I know, but
again, like
I'm saying, but you have to thoroughly tell a story about an individual point, or I don't like. I can tell you're animated about it, and so if just based on that, I could get on board with your belief about it. But if you actually tell me like the information, then I can like potentially decision.
okay. Yeah, I think you are kind of breaking up there. The audio's coming through a little bit, but the camera's definitely slowing down there. It's definitely
Did you hear me or not?
I did catch that
It's I think your Wi-Fi is red. Like it keeps in the bottom corner, left corner. Now it's white, but it has been red a couple times.
that's weird. Okay. I don't see my Wi-Fi on here. What?
Like your connection, like uh by your name, at least you can see by my name, maybe. There's
No,
like
I can't.
4 lines. If you see Quizno subs to the left of that, does it have 4 lines?
I do not see 4 lines on there.
It's,
No.
I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. Basically, what I was
Yeah.
saying is I don't know any of the information. Like, I don't have a full picture of what you're talking about, so I'm only going based off of uh the conviction that you have when you're telling this story. Like, I don't fully know any of the points really that you shared.
Okay, that's fair. It would only be somebody who's seen a lot of these a lot of the takes that Ben Shapiro does. I guess if I had to simplify it down, like I think like do focusing on just one point would be too like it would sound too simple, you know, like disliking somebody for one take is a small thing. Like there's plenty of people who like who I would agree with more, even though I might agree with like some things that they say, you know, like I wouldn't have as much of a dislike for them. I suppose, if that makes sense. Like the what I'm trying to describe here is that like most takes that he has, like 99% of like things that he takes that he gives, I think are bad, I suppose. So rather than that, I'll put it down to this. So point one, I think he's a grifter. 100% a
Okay.
grifter. He's on the grift all the time. We do know that he gets paid by he's sponsored by big oil companies. Um, so not the greatest look for him. He's definitely a biased individual in any department that's related to pollution, anything, any legislation related to oil. He is going to be 100% biased. Second, he very much shares this like evangelical Christian kind of substance to things that when he talks about anything, when he talks about abortion, when he talks about, you know, if people should have the right to do this, if people should have the right to do that. um he said some pretty like crazy things where he's just like, oh no, gay marriage, nope, shouldn't happen, nope. And he like just weird things where he wants to enforce things onto other people, and it's like he and then he tries to, like, you know, backtrack a little bit because he knows it sounds a little bit harsh, and he's like, oh, the government would never pass that, the government would never pass that, even though I think they should, but they'd never pass that. And then, you know, they pass like they get rid of Roe v. Wade and stuff like that. So this guy, I think, like constantly trying to like, he has some pretty harsh political views, and he tries to like mix it in with a little bit of water to try and get people who maybe aren't as religious on his side. But I just like that. I don't agree with those things. I don't think you should force your beliefs onto somebody else. That's second point. Point number three, he's a party man till the bitter end. Just he'd die for the Republican Party. He would throw himself off a cliff if it meant saving the Republican Party. He'd do anything for it. He'd go, he'd take a bullet for Donald Trump himself. He'd run and he'd like you just hear, you'd probably, that's probably what you'd hear. You'd, and then he'd do that because he's a party man till the end. But I would say those are the three reasons why I really dislike him. They always influence his takes, and he's always given these takes that just sometimes are just bad, you know? And every now and then, you know, of course, like everyone's a rational human being to some extent. He sometimes says something that's like, okay, nothing wrong with that, but that's only every now and then, you know?
All right. Yeah, I just think that the two things are, if you're gonna make fun of them, at least say something tangible along with it. And then when you're exploring a point, at least give enough context to where it's a complete story.
Was that a little bit more like that was a more like direct, right? Like 3 points, like did those kind of make more sense? Like they're more broad because broadly speaking, like it's the only way I think that I can express to somebody how I feel about that person. Like, you know, like is through like 3 broad points where I can hit as many possible points home as possible within those, if that makes sense. Oh, that's not good. I think you're
I
completely
got
frozen.
I got all of I heard all of what you said. Um
Okay, okay, that's
yeah,
good.
it's definitely your connection though. Mine's fine. Yeah, I think it's better, but if you're gonna bring up him talking about people selling their house, I still have no idea what you're talking about. So just letting you know, you don't need to go into that right now. But just if you just bring up a point that uh is aggravating and you don't give the context, then you're just being confusing as
Okay,
opposed to
I can see the house one now. That was I kind of just went on like a full rant. Like so the house one was basically it was a conference that he went to. They were talking about global warming. He was saying like, oh, who cares if the oceans rise just a little bit? Who cares if they just keep on rising? He said, if your house gets flooded, just sell it. He said, just sell it. Just sell your house if you live on the coast in a vulnerable area. Just sell it. And it's like, who's gonna buy that house? Nobody's buying that house, man. Nobody.
yeah, see, that wasn't even that hard. I think you were just in the swing of it.
I think I was. I think I was. I was speed running it at that point, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey man, I don't necessarily like him either. He sometimes these people, especially conservative people, they're incredibly smart, and so when people are smart, they make good points and then they sound convincing. But at the end of the day, they are saying stuff that's questionable. Or if you look at the larger context of what they're trying to convince people to do, then you'll recognize it's questionable.
yeah, it's scary when there's a certain amount of like motivation money wise, because like even if like somebody was being paid to promote something bad, they're not necessarily gonna like just stop because they see like maybe people falling into a certain ideology or that they're believing in maybe something that could be damaging in the future. It's kind of scary because those people could look at what's going on around them and could just be wearing tinted glasses, so to speak, because they're just getting they're getting a paycheck from a bunch of people. I mean, a think tank, even perhaps, um, to try and like create a narrative that maybe isn't true and can sometimes end up being damaging because people will go out and um they'll take it as like 100% truth.
Yeah, political influence, political commentary. It's uh it's interesting because people have to have a job and they have to say stuff on behalf of other people. And sometimes, I mean, outside of politics, sometimes you're just at an ad agency or you do marketing and you're promoting something that you don't necessarily believe in, but systematically you have to have a job, right? And if all the jobs are selling things that you don't believe in, like you at least you have to have a job, right? So
I would say that like there's many jobs that you can have or many different like you can be like many different political commentators out there. There's tons. Just don't be like Ben Shabibo. That's all I would say. Don't be like him. Like you can be like many different people. I would say there's a few people that you just absolutely don't want to be like. Ben Shabibo, don't want to be like that guy. Alex Jones, you definitely don't want to be like that guy. Um, I mean, I think for those of us that like, have seen, I don't know if you've seen any of like the InfoWars clips. It's crazy. It's like it's funny. It's actually funny. It's like how insane it is, but some people take the show seriously. I don't know if somehow you could create a show like that where everyone was in on the joke and didn't think that like, there were like people putting chemicals in the water, turning people gay or something like that. Like if you could like do a show where like you didn't give these crazy takes. Anyways, I'm getting off track. Anyways, you don't want to be like him. He got sued recently too because I mean that guy. God, like okay, I do need to slow down here. So basically what happened is he there was the what's the name of the shooting? There was a shooting that
Columbine,
I don't think Columbine, no, that was recent. This was a while ago.
Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook, yeah, the Sandy Hook shootings. He basically decided that on an episode he would claim that it was a government made event. So it was just a cover. It just was a I don't know what you'd call it. Just like they created it basically. They faked it.
He faked it. He said that they faked it and that no kids actually died,
Yeah,
and
and
that
then
it was
these
all made
lunatics.
up.
Yeah, these lunatics who watched his show went and started harassing the parents who had dead kids. Um, and apparently, like it got so bad to the point where they were coming to their house, they were harassing them directly in person, and so this lawsuit came out against him, and he lost, luckily. So he has to pay them money for, you know, spreading, I mean, a terrible, like lying about like that is like really is a really shitty thing to do. That's like, you know, like you can lie about certain things, but when you start lying about like, you know, saying that someone's like own family member didn't die and that that person's lying about it, then you're just drifting into like into madness basically. He did get sued though, luckily. He has to pay money. But that guy is like you definitely don't want to be like that guy. I mean, definitely worse than Ben Shabibo. More entertaining sometimes than Ben Shabibo.
You
But
think he's worse politically than Ben Shapibo?
I
You
don't even think politically he's even on any sort of political map. Like that's how insane I think he is. He has left like he's left the farm, so to speak. He's somewhere like he's somewhere on the outside just screaming at the clouds basically.
okay. Yeah, so you don't want to be like him. I mean, who else would you not want to be like?
Um Tucker Carlson definitely. Another just God, just sneaking in, just sneaking in little white supremacist little tidbits in his show.
Okay, what about some
And he's and look, and if you look at like who sponsors him too, like that's also another like again he's got more than just oil companies sponsoring his show. I mean the Fox network, like, you know, that's it's a lot of mainstream stuff though too, has people in their pockets that, you know,
yeah, so what
aren't
about
too
some
great.
progressive people you don't want to be like?
I can think of some. I think that like definitely I think those are like by far the worst, but it scales a little bit more with like when I think about I'm not a fan of like CNN either. And I definitely I can think about Democratic politicians even, especially that I'm even more not a fan of. Like I don't like any of like the big Democrats right now that are kind of in there. I've never been a fan of Nancy Pelosi. I've never been a fan of Chuck Schumer. You've got that coal miner guy, the guy who he owns the coal business guy. Shoot, I can't remember his name. Yeah, and he's
Well, let's pause right here and then come back after the break. Because
okay. Okay.
it's about to explode anyway.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the notice that came on there.
So I'll send you the link.
All right, all right. Um, so I'm gonna find this guy. I'm gonna find his name because I feel like I should say it now, but I'm gonna just type in coal miner Democrat. It should bring him up. There's only one of him. Manchin, Joe Manchin.
It's probably a stage name.
Yeah, I think so too. But no, he's a big coal miner guy. He also has special interests, you know, hanging out the wazoo. But I would say there's I'm not generally a fan of the Republicans or the Democrats. But if push comes to shove, I'll choose the Democrats if I have to. If because the Republicans, they again, this is like something that I'll say a lot of people would disagree with it. I think with like extreme candidates, there's a lot more people that agree that uh they're a little bit crazy. But I would say there's a lot of like fascist tendencies that are running through the Republican Party, with like overturning elections, trying to get secretaries of state that would be willing to overturn a vote if it didn't fall in favor with who they wanted the public to vote for. Like I would say that to me is very unappealing in their party right now. That's a big one. But I tend to not like either party already as it stands.
So let me tell you what I just noticed. So you said you named specific political commentators that you didn't like that were conservative. And then you just named CNN for political commentary that you didn't like. On the progressive side, or the Democrat. So I think part of it is just the way the types of people there are on each side of the spectrum. On the conservative side, you have clearer and sharper beliefs and personalities that will lead to more a divisive following, more or less. But like on the Democratic side, basically we are trying to be inclusive in a certain way, or the reason the large cities are almost all Democratic is because we have to deal with all these different types of people and shit, and we're riding buses with them, and like we're all compact, so we're not like sharing such sharp ideas or beliefs because we have to be tolerant. So I do understand, like on the spectrum there is more of like isolated beliefs that we have on the conservative side, but I think it might be important to recognize that there still are people within that framework on the Democratic side that are just saying whatever they have to be in their positions. They just might be harder to flush out.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think that the Democrats, something that bothers me about them is that the Democrats and the Republicans at their core, like especially economically, are very similar. They both are extremely moderate, or they tried to be. They want to be, but they can't always do that because you see the Republicans are starting to drift over farther right. And the left, people claim that they're moving more left, but I mean, there's if you look at the candidates that have been elected, there's only like the only people who would be considered far leftists would be probably AOC, Bernie Sanders, and I wouldn't see many others. So what I don't like about the Democrats is their platform is basically to do nothing. Like they'll get elected and then they won't do anything. Like they had the House and the Senate, and they do this line where they're like, "Oh no, the coal mine guy. Oh, he voted with the Republicans. Of course. Well, it's some people, they just are like that, Oh no, Nancy didn't like that one either. Oh, well, I don't think we're going to put that on the ballot. We can't do that." And then it's just this constant, like, like being like, "Oh, no, the Republicans. Oh, God." It's like, and then the Republicans can just play the bad guy. They can literally just be like, no, we'd love to take away the healthcare. That would be great. And then they'd be like, no, please don't do. Oh, no, look, they're coming for you. And it's like, it's the classic dynamic. It's basically just like, then everyone who are like, "I want people to be able to have abortions. I want people to have that right." And then the Republicans, "Oh, they're taking it away." And it's like that it's literally just become about taking things away. And then the Democrats just barely putting up a fight and being like, "See, look, but we fought a little bit. We kind of tried to stop it." It's like, okay, okay, you're doing nothing. Like, and that's the strategy. They basically, they don't really want to do anything. Like, then they don't even have to piss off the people who finance them. They don't have to piss them off because they can say, oh, we don't do anything. And then the Republicans can even just like decide, like, to make some extreme example to that because they're just sitting back and doing this. So I don't know. I just think it's such a mess.
But isn't the idea for it to be progressive and for them to change things and to be pressing issues that the conservatives are wanting to hold back and to slow down and to remain consistent? What has been happening? Isn't that sort of the idea of it? That things are changing and we want to update.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the idea. I mean, that's what I think a lot of people sometimes give their vote for them for, like if I had to choose somebody like, I guess, doing damage as well versus somebody who says I'm going to just do nothing and keep everything the same, I guess I'd go with the person who was going to do things the same. Like if someone was like, "Oh, I'm going to get in there and I'm really going to, I'm going to really mess with this election a little bit and try and I really think that, like, we should really just start declaring somebody as the victor before people even vote. I think that would be really good versus someone who's like, we're just going to do the same thing, even though maybe things could be improved, things there could be improvements made. But no, I'll just be like, I'm just going to go with the person who's, says they're going to change nothing,
What are you talking about?
like if there was somebody who said, and again, I'm basically making a indirect example to, like, there being again, if there was a Republican who said, like, I think we should just and this is an extreme example, but many of them have pretty much said this as well. So basically if they said, we're just going to declare a victor before we even vote because I like this person, I know all America likes this person, and so they just won automatically. And that's how we're going to run elections. We're all going to talk amongst each other, and then whoever screams the loudest, that person must have won.
That's not happening. What are you talking about?
Well, no, there's some people who have you seen the secretaries of state that ran in the recent election who said, many of them were saying that they would overturn it. Like, a person asked this guy, this funky dude wearing a cowboy hat, I'm sure some people know his name, and this is just one of them. This is just one example, but he said, like, yeah, if Trump didn't win, I think I might have to overturn. I don't think I'd believe it. I would not believe it if he did not win in this state. I would not believe it. And this is the guy who's supposed to be in charge of the elections. Like, this guy's in charge of running the elections, claiming that
Okay.
there's fraud and unproven examples of the election just being rampant with, like, dead people voting. Like, what? Who? Like, where is this coming from? Their movie, literally, like, the evidence that they showed in the movie that they made, their little documentary, there was this weird guy who made, like, it was like something meals or something like that. It's 20,000 meals. I don't know what number they put in front of that, but they had, like, somebody in the film just, like, put in two ballots into the ballot box, and people, they vote for their families. Do you know how many people take the ballots of their whole household, go to the ballot, and then put all of them in? And now there's people with guns watching the ballot boxes, and it's like, oh, okay. Now we're just
Hold
going to live
on,
in this
dude.
society.
Hold on.
Great.
But what are you talking about? I'm still confused about this because you're just saying there's people trying to just decide elections before they happen, and that's like all that people are trying to do. That's what you're saying. Ben Shapiro is trying to do. Everybody's just
No,
trying to
not.
control things politically. But I'm just saying, like, that's one person, and then you're saying that the Democrats are just saying we're gonna do the same. We're gonna keep everything the same. I think every person runs on a certain platform, and they said these are the things that I'm gonna do, and that's that's almost never I'm gonna do nothing. They wouldn't get voted into office if they said that.
I guess what I'm saying is that they don't run on the platform of we're gonna do nothing. Like again, like you said, like it's supposed to be like, you know, they're talking about like doing progressive legislature, changing things, you know, trying to adapt for the future. It's kind of like their tagline. But what they often end up doing is they get in there and they do nothing. That's why nothing changes, and that's why they never pass anything, even when they have the House and the Senate, like they did recently. They always have some outlier who comes in last minute. Joe Manchin coming in there, messing up the whole thing. Oh no, Joe! Oh, he's coming back at it again. That's Mr. Manchin. He loves his coal. He has the coal mines, and I don't. Why is he a Democrat? Oh well, because he just is. Oh, wait. So what if he was gone? Oh well, then there'd be somebody else. You know, we'd have someone else come in and they'd also play the same role.
So there's always an
Oh, Mr.
excuse.
Bean. Oh God, he has the bean factories. I forgot about him. He gets paid by the Bean Man, and now now he's blocked it again. What? Oh no. Wait, are all of you guys Republicans? Yes. That's sometimes what it feels like to me, at least. Like I don't know. I think that like I guess like the fact that they do nothing is something that bothers me about the Democrats. And I don't like the Republicans for the, regressive legislature that they put in place, or that the fact that their structure involves like taking away Roe v. Wade and taking away certain rights that people had and now don't have. Despite claiming to be the party of like, freedom and like, freedom, you protect your rights, like, claiming to be that party, but like at the same time taking away rights. So I don't know. I think I just don't like either of them, I guess, is the bottom line. I think they both they definitely both are heavily influenced by lobbyists and stuff like that. So that's another reason to not like them. They're both definitely corrupt, but they also both are disingenuous, I think, with like what's truly at the core of what their voter base wants, and they never seem to do that.
Yeah. So then, like, if that's at the core of them being disingenuous, and then what's the point of catching catching up to speed with what they're doing and staying informed if it's not if they're lying, basically?
Well, because the things that they do matter, like legislation that they pass matters, what people in the political sphere are saying, like different media figures, what they're saying is important, because it things that are passed do hold significance, and I'm not saying that they never pass anything. They just never pass anything. There's things that are like good, but like they'll even get like gutted to the point where it's like it's still good, but it's like, it's just a shell of what it used to be, because they just took off a ton of like bits of it and just like left this shell of a bill. And then they packed in a bunch of stuff that maybe a few lobbyists wanted packed in there. So they just packed in a few other things that would benefit, maybe not the mass of people who voted for that individual. So I don't know. I think that it matters to pay attention, because if nobody looked at what they were doing, they could do whatever they wanted, and if no one complained and nobody said like, I dislike that they did that, I'm going to vote for somebody else, then it would be even worse, because they just start spamming out. I mean, I really think they'd probably spam out something that would be so insane. I personally think they would. I think they would collectively just be like, okay, well then it doesn't matter. You can just you know what, you can go and you can never, I don't know. I'm not gonna make a joke that's like really extreme. I was gonna say like they'd pass a bill where it's just like you no longer have a wage anymore. You work for a company for free. And that company can pay for all of your needs and all your things, and it's up to them.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah. So it just
Boom.
sounds like we got to
Heads
become,
down.
you and I, but have to become lobbyists, I guess, is what it's coming down to.
A lobbyist for who is the question though?
I know, but I
Because
mean, isn't that how you have influence? It's seeming.
I would say the influence from the lobbyists, they come from the big companies that pay them to talk to these politicians and to write things into law. Because the crazy thing is some people many people in Congress, they don't even necessarily have the time to read
Oh, they definitely don't. But I'm just saying,
some of these
then
bills.
we have to pay lobbyists then, if not be them.
Yeah, yeah, that would be expensive though. It would be
Yeah.
expensive. People shell out,
Hundreds of
millions
millions
of
of dollars.
dollars.
Yeah, but I mean, that I think that seems to be the only way, you know?
Yeah. I mean, maybe one day, maybe if there was someone could create an entity that could pay lobbyists to actually do things that are for the benefit of people in general, rather than just, the people who are paying the money for the lobbyist. Um there's groups, there's nonprofits that lobby, but the problem is that they never have quite as much funding as a for-profit company, because that company has so much more resources to just shell out to get things passed. And then the little guy is like me, trying to get the person's attention with a really short stick, and the other person has like a baseball bat and can go bah, and then like just write him whatever they want to, and then like hold the little guy off with his hand. I don't know. That's a weird analogy, but um,
It was
yeah.
illustrative. I'll tell you that I'm just saying that's what I'm noticing. Um, that's some way is to have more money and then tell them to vote for what you want. So
Or we
I'm
we
gonna do
change
that.
the system.
I'm gonna do that. But that does come from the big money interest. Is the system is changed through that currently.
Yeah. There's other ways too. Like, it's not like the vote is worthless, but the lobbyists can
No, but dude, the vote is on, like, we don't necessarily decide on what we vote for. We vote, but we don't have this, like, the stuff that we're voting on isn't, we're not really, you and I aren't deciding what that is.
no, it's and it is kind of like I always hate it because it's like an illusion of choice, because again you get stuck with two people from the same two parties, and if one turns out to be like slightly insane, you just have to vote for the other one. It feels like, it feels like you don't even have a choice at that point. um if you take out one out of two, you just have one. It's kind of a fake choice if you think about it. Some people vote by party lines, so they're not even choosing for themselves. Some people, they again, if somebody like, if one person is like really bad to you,
Yeah.
I'll say there's a certain amount of like subjectiveness.
That's like voting on like people. But I remember a couple years ago there was like a voting on, like, are we gonna do this candy or the soda tax? Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Then it's like,
yeah.
okay, we're gonna decide if we're gonna tax fat people for drinking soda, right? But we didn't decide, like, should we tax that, as opposed to should we tax gas more, or should we tax alcohol more, or cigarettes, or anything like that. So like, we're not deciding what sort of goods and services to tax. We're prompted with a single option, and then we get a debate over it, you know. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. Like, we've had high gas prices, but there might have been breaks elsewhere. Like, at the end of the day, we're probably gonna end up spending the same amount of money, regardless of who's in office. You know, like, people get like really caught up in like these small things, but at the end of the day, it's like, how much does it even matter? and I know I'm switching to a different point, but how don't we make it a bigger deal than it actually is, in terms of who we choose and how that actually affects us on an individual level?
I think it's a collection, like collectively, all those things together matter a lot because one of those things might not be really important at the moment, or it might not make a big change, but collectively with all the other things and all the other small decisions that are made, it can make a big impact. So I think the only way is to like care about all of them. Of course, like, it's not like end of the world with like every single small proposition that's being forwarded, but I think it's important to care because collectively they all care as a group of many different small decisions that contribute to what our world looks like, or country looks like, rather, on a country basis. But um I don't know. I think like getting people in there with different ideas is something that also is really important. Like I think there's a lot of change that can happen if you get people who are willing to not continue on the practices that have been going on for a long time. Like, if somebody was willing to, and again, in the current system, this would be really hard, but if somebody wanted to focus less on the lobbyists and try and, focus on what their core, like the people who voted for them wanted, um, that could be a game changer. But again, how would they get reelected? Because they depend on campaign donations from these big companies. And I mean, we're part of the problem in this equation too. I'll even admit it, because like they're getting these campaign funds to appeal to us and spend these large amounts of money on campaigns, spend a lot on advertising, trying to reach you and get you to vote for them again. And the fear is that if they don't have enough money, they won't be able to compete with the other person who does accept the donations. They get their name out there, and people forget about the previous guy who was running. It's just a war of convincing the public that this person is somehow better than the other person, and being able to pay for a number of smear campaigns on the television to say this person's bad. Back in the day, this person did this, and then trying to promote yourself as a better alternative.
Okay. Hey, do you want to do a current events segment of the show?
Yeah, that would be fun. Sure. Yeah.
Let's do that. Maybe pick like 3 stories, or yeah, probably 3, and just have a segment, especially when we get to the OBS stage. It'd be easy to have like a current events thing with like a little music thing, and we could go into current events.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I ordered my capture card and HDMI cable, so tomorrow I'll have that.
My monitor actually just came in today. It's on the
Oh,
floor right now in a box.
nice.
But it is ready to go.
Nice. Okay, so yeah, next Friday I should have that cable set up, and you know,
I should have this
me
monitor
too.
set up to the second one. I should be all set. My car battery actually died recently, so I'm gonna have to jump it and then try to get to if I have to go to a store. It's snowing too, but it says it's gonna stop here soon, so I don't think there should be too much. But I'm gonna have to start it. Hopefully get the wire as soon as possible, just in case we're in for some crazy winter weather.
Wait, get the wire for what?
For the so I'm gonna test it today, but I need to I might need what do they call it? It's not a HDMI splitter because that just shows the same exact thing that's on your first screen. It's a I think it's a converter. I might need to convert one of the USB ports to an HDMI. Because I have a second one on there, but it didn't work for some reason when I plugged in my first monitor. So I'm gonna have to see if I can use it on my second one.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we should do a test then. You're gonna have to. You have class later today, right?
I do. I
So
do need to. I'll have to start my car to.
to get the class. Yeah. Um. Do you have somebody that can jump it for you?
I have a jump kit. I tried it last night. But it wasn't so it has this thing on there and it says that the battery was too cold.
Hmm. It is cold if it's snowing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if it's sticking out there right now, but I looked on my phone like during the break and it did say it was snowing outside, but I I don't know how a battery like it was in the car, but the idea behind that battery is that it's fully charged. It's charging right now because I tried it and it was like
Oh,
giving
the
like weak output.
jumper battery is too cold.
Yeah, because I tried to jump it yesterday. And the battery said like low output, battery is cold. Except outside, it had so much information on it. It was just saying like cold, 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 and it was like low output, but it was outputting electricity because like the car alarm came on for a second, but I couldn't start it. So I took it back in. It's charging right now. It's been charging throughout the night. It's at 100%. And I gotta try it when it's warm. I couldn't even charge it at first. It was so cold. I
Okay,
just
so
don't understand
maybe
how
it'll
like
maybe it'll work now.
maybe it will, but how like that's supposed to be like for like the most desperate times, right? You're driving and you're like,
Yeah.
oh no, Dan, and the car goes like, and you're, no, and then you were like, oh no, it's so cold out here. I better take out my nice battery and then go in
Yeah, but dude,
and
now
plug it.
now we know.
Yeah, just imagine that. Imagine being out in the imagine you're just like out in the cold. Like I guess a battery wouldn't die while you're driving necessarily. I don't know if that happens to people often, but imagine you stop by this like place and you turned off your car. Oh, okay, it's so cold out here, it's freezing, and you had to like go and do something. I don't know what you did, but you came back to the car. Oh, it's so cold. Oh, and you got into the car
Yeah,
and you were
that
like,
I
oh
mean,
no,
not
and then
everything works the way it's supposed to.
I know, but imagine that would be the worst time, like
Yeah.
when it's like freezing and you're like sitting there and you're like, and then the battery didn't start because it was too cold outside. It's like
Then you would
how?
have to, give the battery a nice hug there for a couple hours. Maybe it would warm it up.
I guess I could have done that too. It was so cold outside though. I was like, I'm getting back in. I don't have time for this, and I already used it 2 times. And then at that point, it was like 40% battery, and I was like, ah, damn it. And you're supposed to have it at 100% to get the full voltage, and I was like, oh, damn it. It's just
So if it does work, then could we do a test sometime?
yeah, yeah.
Like Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah. I think that I'm hoping that my cable works out right. So I'm hoping I don't even have to buy an extra one. If I did, however, I just need to zip on over to Best Buy and grab one of those converters and get it to work that way. But
Okay, but
I think the car should start. I can't imagine like if it doesn't start, I'll have to have I'll probably have a friend pick me up and I'll have to go and get a battery for it, a new 12 volt. But
yeah, but the test would be like if the screens work, then we could switch over to Discord, right? Because then you'd be able to use OBS and stuff.
yeah. I think Discord would be better too because we wouldn't have this time constraint thing
Yeah,
that
and
that happens.
the quality be better. So does
That too.
Wednesday night work? Do you have like tests or any quizzes this week?
Um, let me double check first. I'll want to check my school page just to make sure that I don't have anything because I believe next week is finals and I think I have a final project due at the end of this week at some point, but I'll double check real quick just to make sure.
Okay, cool. Wednesday is ideal for me, so if we're gonna do it, let's do it then.
Okay. I'll shoot for Wednesday then.
Okay, cool.
Because we'll also need time to well, we don't necessarily have to design anything. I was gonna say we could try to make a new layout, but we can start simple, just
Yeah,
test
just
an
start with the
OBS.
screen record and then go from there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um, Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Um, you know, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends about it, and
Yeah.
and your mom.
And don't watch Shabibo. Watch this show instead.